So we were already working for the Lebanese American University on another project in Beirut. It was actually another library. And when they decided to also build another library in their Byblos campus, they kind of contacted us. We started some studies, then we kind of stopped. And then after some years, they recontacted us again. And we were invited to redesign this new library. But at that moment, they had not just the library, but they also wanted a central administration building. So I went over to Lebanon and I visited the site. The site was at that time already excavated. And that's how the project started. And so it was a library and a central administration building. So the first vision, the first thing we saw when we were there was and this is the image, actual image when I went there, was the excavated rock and the bare mountain. And that was for me a very powerful image because, first of all, because the rock is so beautiful, but also how it changed in color from the morning till the evening. And naturally, what we already knew about Lebanon was the very strong, beautiful light, which was also a powerful presence in the country. And so we were inspired by the sedimentary rock and also the very complex stratified history of the region, and also inspired by the very strong light and how do we work with that. So I would say that in our projects in general, very important always are the passive architecture design strategies, and they're coupled with the landscape strategies to enhance the positive environmental benefits. And also we always have positive social strategies, to have more inclusivity. And those are the base always of all of our designs.
Here we studied the existing campus, the pedestrian density that naturally increases when there are points of interest of social interaction between students within the campus.
And down there, there's the cafeteria. So that's why you see all the students were always around the cafeteria and that small plaza.
And so we studied the diagram of the pedestrian flow and the vehicular circulation in order to make sure that they don't intersect and we have pleasant walking experience around the campus.
And also we should clarify that there's the upper campus, which was the new campus where the future library and central administration were going to be. And the lower campus is the older campus. And that's the place where the cafeteria is situated. Yeah.
And we also analyzed the views toward the campus, and most important, the view toward the Mediterranean Sea, because the campus and the site of the library is located on a hill overlooking the Mediterranean. We studied also the natural light, the shadow pattern during the different seasons, in order to make sure that positioning and shaping the building, we would create areas where there will be light and sun when it's needed, and more protected diffuse light and shadow in order to allow for exterior activity also during the hot season.
And here we have the first start of a concept. And now we were told, okay, there are two buildings, a library, and this, we call it here gallery, but it's actually central administration with gallery below. And how do we place them? So the first idea, very strong idea, was we're not going to place them against the rock, but besides the rock. So we'll leave some space around. And also then we realized, but there's a difference in level between the main campus and the already excavated site. So maybe we can do something with that. And that's where the idea of the amphitheater came around. And so by placing the two buildings strategically, we were able to create an entrance space from the main campus and then down to the amphitheater. And then again, a space around the building. So you always have airflow going around the public spaces that we are creating. Airflow that has a very great benefit of cooling the spaces in the summer. And here's our model of the campus. And we did this model because we were trying to understand the proportions of our two buildings. And we were really wanted to fit in with the old buildings. Now you see all the small buildings are the old buildings. The gigantic building near ours is the new building that is the medical structure. We wanted to relate to the old campus. And we realized, yes, the proportions are correct. They will fit within the old language of the campus.
And this is the main circulation, the link with the existing campus, bringing together public function that enhance the student life. And so we created the amphitheater that allows both for basically private visiting or organizing staged events. And we have also the outdoor cafeteria that is on the shaded area between the rock and the new library. And that links also with the similar function on the existing old campus. And we studied the air circulation by studying the prevailing winds and shaping the building so that the cool air could go around and create environment conducive for gathering and staying outside and enjoying the place.
And here's the view. These are models we built. We built many, many models, but in any case, this is one of the models we built, and it was mainly, and you don't see it very well because it's not maybe a great picture, but it was to study the amphitheater, how it would feel, how it would look, and also how the buildings would look from above, because there's a hill above. So you can see actually the roofs of our building. So we wanted them to be as clean and as beautiful as possible. We showed the solar panels, and then we just showed the roofs, and they had to be very simple and clean. At a certain point, they were going to be green, then it was too complicated because of the extreme heat. So we just left them white, and now they're perfectly beautifully white. And this is, again, the model from below, looking up, and, you know, the buildings, the second skin, the rock behind.
And those are the main functions, where we have the library to the left and the central administration to the right. We have the library's all public functions with basically the most general function on the lower floors, and dedicated study rooms on the upper floors, and the offices also on the upper floors. On the central administration building, we made sure that also the first floors were public, dedicated to a gallery museum that can be used for several functions during by the institution, and the administration private offices, they are the upper floors. Here's the study of the sun, and that were by the season, so to make sure that we would protect the building with a double skin to create diffuse light and shade and positive air circulation. And we studied where it was needed, because it is an element that it's important at a certain location, and other location would not be needed because natural ventilation would get achieved with other means.
So the point here, and this was very important for the client, and they wanted to keep the second skin, and in general, the project had to be very conscious of the money we were spending. So we only use second skin where absolutely it was necessary. We didn't just use it all over because it was a nice decorative element. So these studies were just exactly that, to reflect where do we need it, where we don't need it. And so this helped us a lot in determining also the shape of the second skin.
And those are the section showing the passive architectural strategies. And we have, as we mentioned, the second skin that creates air circulation that keeps the building cool during the hot season and creates a buffer during the colder season, so that we minimize heating and cooling of the building. And we created an atrium that has a positive airflow toward the top, a chimney effect, and we have operable window that allow for natural air circulation, minimizing forced mechanical ventilation. And also the second skin diffuses the light and takes out the glare from the strong sun of the Mediterranean, and allows the building to be used also without natural light during the day.
Artificial light. Yeah. I think this image shows what we saw previously, but in a more technical way. And you can see how open and fluid it is. And also we have the sunken garden that we never talked about, but we created a sunken garden because we needed to bring light and air and green to the lower floor, which is very large. And this shows in very few words the fluidity of the space. This section is very important, and it creates this beautiful central hub that is really a central hub where students go up and down, where they meet each other, they see each other, and it creates a lot of synergy. And it's not just, let's say, a space that is important for environmental subjects, but also it's important for the students as a social space. And this is the longitudinal section, and you see again how the hub the central atrium hub works, how the other floors work, the synergy between the spaces and the lower floor, the very large lower floor.
And this is the main facade that shows the sunken garden, the entrance level, and the juxtaposition between the library and the central administration building, and the strategic use of the second skin to create shade and diffuse the light. This is the facade toward the rock, and we have the core in concrete with the main alphabet of the immediate region as a testament of the history, because Byblos is the place where about 300,000 years ago, the phonetic alphabet was first developed and codified.
And this is the hub. Again, we studied a lot the hub because we really wanted to make sure it worked. 3D study to see the light, and the light above is actually comes from the north, and it's also where we have all these operable windows. We have them all throughout the facade, but in particular up there, so that there's a natural flow that can happen if so desired, and it actually works. Yeah. So these are pictures that we took. So the project was a very long project. I don't know when it started, but 2010, 2009, I don't remember. And then it went on and on and on. And we finally were ready to take pictures at the complete finish of the project completion, which was 2019 and 2020, but then we had COVID. So we were not able to go back to 2021, then 22. And finally, Baja went back again last year, I think, to do the film. And these are the pictures that is a bit of the testament of what we have. So here we can see the library and the central administration, the rock in the back.
And the main entrance.
The main entrance, yeah. And this is just a snapshot of the library seen from the north. So there's an entrance gate at the north. So when you come in, that's what you see from the north gate. That's what you see. You see the library from the long view, and you can see beyond the central administration, and beyond that, the remaining parts of the campus. This is again a view of, again, from the north gate, but this is more towards the evening. So now the lights are on because there's not enough natural light. So as the evening comes, you can see the building becomes more and more transparent. During the day, it's opaque.
And this is the amphitheater, and that's enjoyed by the student.
And this is the entrance. So from the library as you enter, going down to the amphitheater. And these are, again, students who are going down towards the bottom of the amphitheater. And this is the amphitheater, complete amphitheater with the lower area of the cafeteria. And you can see, he took this from above, so you can see the Mediterranean below in the view. Yeah.
And the cafeteria place on bottom. And this is the cafeteria between the building and the excavated rock. And as a very pleasant climate, and you see the double skin on top of the building only in this area because the rock creates the natural shade on the lower floors.
This is the view from the gallery, looking out into the space again. And you can see the wall with all the alphabets, and somebody taking a picture, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the image of actually the main atrium, and it's from the ground floor. So he's standing on the first floor, but he's looking down at the entrance ground floor. And this is the, let's say, first feeling you have of the library.
And the main hub of
yeah.
the spatial organization.
And these are interior picture. This is on the top floor and the first floor. And it shows the different areas. You have so many areas of studies you can pick and choose. I mean, you have alone together in a study room, or just concentrating. If you go on to the next picture, a lot of kids like to sit and just look at the rock because it's so inspiring and beautiful.
And this is also the main atrium that connects the various areas of the library from the bottom level, the sunken garden level, to the top floor.
Yeah. And this is down on the lower floor, and this is all the compact shelving. And you have students, some of them like to study here too. So.
And this is we are back at the outside,
You mean sunken?
Yeah, no,
Amphitheater.
the amphitheater area, and that is on the late afternoon, early evening time. And this is also the cafe that's used all around.
Yes, and you can see also what is beautiful is how the rock and actually the concrete, they pick up the colors in the evening.
And
It's
they change color with the time
very
of the day.
interesting.
Something that's really interesting for me is that you made this project in a way that is really representative of the style of the culture and heritage of the area. You come from the different culture. How did you manage this? Like, this is so important. How did you manage to have this project to be representative of that area and like the people of the area?
So this is actually a very important and interesting question, because you have to understand that we didn't just go there and do this project. We were already working in Lebanon for a long time, maybe, I don't know,
10 years before.
10 years before. So I had gone back and forth. I mean, I really knew and understood and loved actually the region. I mean, the region is beautiful, the culture and everything. And we had read about it. We had looked up typology books. We had looked up, you know, history books. I mean, it's not that we just came and designed. No, we had absorbed this for a while, and then we were able to little by little express. But we couldn't have done it if we hadn't done all this work beforehand. It would have been impossible.
We studied the history of the region from the very early periods to the Ottomans to the contemporary, and we saw all the stratification and the cross-pollination of very different culture in the region. And that was always an inspiration to bring about the building. And also one of the elements for the passive architecture is always study also the architectural history of the region and see what were the traditional methods of construction and typology in order to have natural elements of sustainable climate and sustainable use of the buildings before the advent of mechanical technology. You had the Hosh as the courtyard, you had the Rivak as a shaded facade, and you have the Mashrabiya that diffuses the light and reduces the glare. And we apply all those elements in a modern form in order to create a building that was sustainable and was on a modern shape, but adhering to the typology of the region.
Exactly. And aside of your studies, you experiment a lot. Like, as you mentioned, with those models, and you've been experimenting with different stuff, like, and you have this layer of like experience, like from the like wind and through the like population, all of that. So it was a whole process, not just a study.
Oh yeah, it was a very long process, I can tell you that.
It's a very deep study.
Yeah, because also the second skin for the client was something that they could not really understand, because it is counterintuitive. In all truth, it is counterintuitive. So when we told them we're going to place a second skin in front of the glass, and no, we don't want to be, can't see out. And we said, no, 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 you'll be able to see out. And then they said, but then we have to have big, big holes. And no, no, it's exactly the opposite. But so, it was a long process, because we had to do mock-ups in our office to, they could look out from our windows from naturally in New York, but in any case, and see that even with a second skin, they could actually still see out. So we had to really, really, and we built some gigantic, really mock-ups. I mean, it was very interesting, but it was important for them, because it is difficult sometimes to explain something to a client. So you have to make it easy for them. And for them, it was a big responsibility, because then they were going to, do it. And, if it didn't work, what a disaster. So, no.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this on the show, about how we can interact with the clients. And sometimes it's the designer responsibility to like convince them the reason behind these designs. And as you mentioned, for this double skin facade, in the area, like I'm personally from Middle East, we have this the style of cultural buildings that they block the sun. So if you explain it to them, they gonna just understand the meaning behind this.
Yeah, it is. Let's say that I must say that I don't know of any other project that has used the second skin as we have used it, because we didn't use it, because you see, the second skin is a very beautiful concept, but it's different and it's used differently. So in modern architecture, contemporary, I've seen it very often used and very beautifully for play of light and sun,
yes,
and shade, and but in a decorative way, like in atriums or passages. But I've never seen it done like we did it in a study room. Now, in a study room, it's not a play of light and shade, because otherwise you have glare and you can't study. So it has to be perfectly even. And that was the big issue. And the big responsibility that we had is, how do we make it so there's no glare? Because if there's glare, the students can't study. So it has to really be diffused and calming. And that was the very, very difficult part, because we had to really go through so many tentative and studies and
backups.
Because it was not that easy to come to the exactly right, combination of glass and second skin and everything. So
and the idea was to use as much natural daylight in the interior of the building,
which they have plenty of.
Yeah. And what is this second skin material made of? Perhaps you have a more close-up image?
Here, the second skin. Now, again, we're talking about a project that had to be done considering always the budget. It was not a project where you can, go ahead, do whatever you want. No, the budget was very tight. So we had to come up with very ingenious ideas, because we had to use products that were available. We couldn't custom make this beautiful second skin using the alphabet, what we had all these fantasies in our head. But we had to go out and get a product that was already available and then make it work with what we needed. And so the second skin is aluminum, and it's readily available. And then there's naturally, I don't remember anymore, but there's an exact combination of perforation and size that we had to study. But it's off the shelf. It's not custom made.
Yeah. And I also like this, as you said, this reflection of the stone in the concrete walls. Is there something that you did? Is this pure concrete, or was there something that you added from?
No, this is concrete. Now it's prefab concrete. It's blocks that you put, because they had to carve the letters, so it would have been a bit too complicated to pour the concrete, and then so it's prefab with the letters on it, carved on it, and then placed on the wall. And so the steps below also are stone and concrete. So again, they kind of work all well together. And I think that's also very beautiful area of the library. And it's kind of a
Yes.
secret area because you don't really know it till you arrive there. Because you don't, unless you see it from above, you don't know it's there.
Exactly, yeah. And perhaps before we move on, could you tell us the climate in this particular region of Lebanon? Is it hot and
Well,
dry?
I would say that it's it rains
Mhm.
also in the winter, but in the summer and in the other, it's pretty warm. I mean, it's not extreme as it would be more to the south, but it's still
A Mediterranean.
Mediterranean
Mhm.
climate. And so I remember going there in all season, and in the summer, it was really, for me, much, much too hot. And I was always in the shade. I couldn't stay in the sun.
Mhm.
So my idea was, why can't I create spaces that you can stay outside? Because outside, it's always beautiful to stay outside in such a climate. You don't want to ever be inside. But that are shaded, but still you can enjoy the sun, but indirectly, and that's how all these spaces came about. How can we, in the sunken garden too, plant it with olives and whatever, so that we can stay outside but still be shaded, and how can we bring also, because again, you always want to be outside, the outside in, so that when you're inside the library, you always have those views to the landscape, to the sea, to the rock, and you don't feel kind of feel in communion with the landscape around you. Beside the fact that landscape can help you mitigate the climate, of your building. So if you can use landscape together with, I mean, it's ideal. And even now, if you think, and now with all the studies are done in universities, know about all the biogenic materials made of vegetation, that's even a step beyond, but that's, much more sophisticated and would require much, I mean, it will happen, but in the future. And also it will require probably more budget. Now, this is from above. So you see this, we showed you our model. You remember our model? So this is what is really there. and this is actually a better picture because it has more light. Our model was not so beautiful, yeah. And it's beautiful to see the colors of the stone and the water and the steps, and I really love it. I think it's
at the bottom of the
Yeah.
amphitheater, we have also a small water feature.
Yeah, we have a water feature
Also for cooling.
for cooling. Yeah. And these are the steps that lead down to the bottom of the amphitheater. And these are details that Baha took pictures of, just the second skin, the concrete, the glass beyond. And this is the picture of the rock below and in the glass.
I really like what you did with the rock, how you preserved it. So since it's also a really strong, like an artifact in the project. So was the rock already carved out like that for a long time, like years ago, or was it?
No,
just
no,
that-
the rock, you mean the excavated rock? No, the
Yes.
rock was a mountain, and the client decided to excavate the rock to build the medical school. And while they were at it, they excavated all of it because they said, well, then the next building will be the library and central administration. So when we arrived at the campus, we saw there was this construction going on, and maybe I don't even remember the first time I went if the medical school was already up or not. But in any case, it was in construction. And then I just realized, wow, how beautiful. And that's then the whole reaction to it. So no, it was not like that. At the beginning, it was a mountain. And then by excavating, this came out. And you realize how old it is, how ancient. I mean, it's even ancienter than the Phoenician. I mean, it's wow.
Exactly. Yeah, it
We
was
have a lot of respect for that.
it was a very good call on your part to preserve the rock thing.
And sometimes it's importance of like visiting the site. Like when you visit there, you get these ideas in the site and see some things are gonna stand out to you very well.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's very inspirational. Yeah.
And was a decision that we took to, let's say, integrate the existing quarry like not in the project, instead of trying to build against it or hide it or modify it, but to bring the natural as an element to create the new space.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And then you have the natural and man-made, no contrast too. That is,
As you mentioned before, that was part maybe of our architectural idea for the project.
Great. Guys, we have this final question at the end of our show, and that's, what's your advice to the younger generation of designers that want to start their career now?
Well, that's very difficult because I'm sure they're all bright and capable to start their career. No, I think what I'm hoping is that we all will use much more common sense and much more passive design approach paired with landscape, biogenic now in the future approaches to our design, and also always include a lot of positive social concepts, because we have to build and do, now we do mostly public buildings, so that's why we keep repeating this, but we really have to include and welcome everybody, all people of all races, religion, all capabilities. I mean, we really have to be more generous to everybody and more loving, and I think that will help in general our planet.
And create something for the people.
So that's my and what we do when we have interns in our office, we really try to teach them that, and hopefully they'll bring it with them when they go out and do their own stuff.
And also another.
And try to understand each other. No, we're all different, but we're all the same. So let's try to understand each other.
And another element related and complementary to that is to understand the history, the culture, and how things are used and come together in different regions, meaning it's not one size fits all, but something that applies to a part of the world or a certain culture has to belong to that. It's not to be a foreign object.
Yeah.
And the level that you study and the level of experimenting that you have on your project, I think is really going to be inspiring for lots of people. New generation maybe don't have that mindset, but I think it's going to help them if they go to that path as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Because you see, right now we have all these means to do all kinds of shapes and things, but at the end of the day, you have to build it, no? So you also have to think how you build it, how you put it together, and also what technologies do they have locally. I mean, I can, say, oh, it's beautiful to build everything in wood because now it's a big trend, but it depends where, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So if you can't, what else do they have? How can I make it work for them? And that I think is very, very important also to always think where you're building, with whom you're doing it, especially if it's built architecture. Now, if it's, only projects and designs for yourself, that's maybe a different story. But if you're actually designing to build, then you also have to say, how can I make it happen? In maybe not a too expensive, special way, but, just with using what we have in local, as we say, and make the best out of what we can do. And using maybe your ingenuity, and innovation rather than following trends or whatever fashions.
And these trends comes and go really fast, but these buildings gonna stay for years. We should be mindful about that. This is really important. Thank you guys so much. You have such an amazing project, and we enjoyed talking to you so much. Wish you the best of luck in the future project, and we hope we can have this opportunity to talk to you again in the future.
Yeah, let's hope that we can come up with some other great project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.